Yeah, fuck. What were we talking about? I've completely lost my train of thought.
Giantbomb.com.
I guess let's talk about Yakuza. Yeah, sale stuff.
Yeah, Yakuza 7, Like a Dragon. I've been playing it. I played like 35 hours in the last 5 days. It came out Thursday, right?
That's a lot.
Holy smokes,
that's a lot of Yakuza.
Pretty much any free moment I've had, I've been playing that game.
Is that a strong endorsement?
Yeah. I'm pretty primed to like it. I've been itching for a JRPG lately. I re-downloaded some old ones that I hadn't finished, but nothing was quite hitting it for me.
Does it actually just straight up qualify as a JRPG now? Like
yes.
you wouldn't say that about the previous ones, right? Like,
No.
I know they went turn-based in the combat, and that's probably...
I would say those are action games.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
But I guess
adventures or something.
I mean, I guess what I'm asking is, did they change other stuff besides moving to turn-based combat that makes it seem more like a JRPG, or is it just the combat?
It's the combat, and it's like having a full party system.
Okay.
You know,
right.
like so basically, you know, the whole idea for this game. It's so, I guess. So I'm not the most versed in Yakuza. I played 0, I played 6, and I played a little Kiwami 1. So I've gotten kind of like some of the main story beats of Kiryu and kind of what those games are about. And this one, I was reading an interview with Famitsu that the producers did like a year or two ago. And they were like, we just wanted a clean break. You know, we went to our superiors and we're like, we want to show that we can make a game that's not an action game. We want to like really push ourselves to make something different. And so they kind of landed on this, and the whole setup for the game, the new protagonist, your new Kiryu, is a guy named Ichiban, and he's like a huge into Dragon Quest guy. He's a Yakuza guy.
It's named Dragon Quest, right? It's not like a fake game.
Straight up Dragon Quest. He talks about killing slimes. He talks about, you know, being the hero, which is like the canonical name of the protagonist from all of the Dragon Quest games. Like
that's what he shows in Smash. Fees for this.
They do. I mean, they mentioned in the credits, I think, like, hey, shout out to Square Enix.
Dragon Quest appears courtesy of Square Enix.
Yeah.
I think they have some like sound effects in there from Dragon Quest games and stuff like that. So like, yeah, they very much probably went to them and were like, look, we love these games. Obviously, those games are a much bigger deal in Japan than they are here. So I imagine it's even like crazier there to see all this Dragon Quest stuff in there.
It's why they did that instead of like, he really likes the original Phantasy Star games or, you know, some Sega RPG or something, because it just doesn't have the same, like, I mean, it'd be fun if he was like, I just like Skies of Arcadia, you guys. Like, that'd be cool. But
I'm really into Tales of Symphonia. I tried the other Tales games, but they didn't quite do it for me.
Yeah. Yeah, go ahead, Namco. Yeah, so it's just, yeah. So that's why they, you know, Dragon Quest, the actual article, not instead of just using one that Sega already owned. I guess they could use Atlas. They could be like, I'm a big Persona fan. I'm in high school. I don't know. Maybe
So going off of that, you know, Ichiban really sees himself as the hero, and he sees like the people around him as his party. And so that's something pretty new to Yakuza, because like Kiryu always had allies and stuff, but like your party members are with you all the time. They're with you for the side stories. They're with you with the main story. You know, they're just kind of always there.
Okay, hang on. I'm sorry, I have to stop you to ask the single most important question you can ask about a JRPG. When you're roaming around, do your party members follow you in a line, or do they all merge into you and you're not fighting?
They straight up follow you in a line, and like you'll bump into them, and they'll be like,
one of those, huh?
I like it that way.
I do like it that way too. It makes it feel like they're really there. And also, like, a big part of the game is you have kind of social links with them. There, you have a bond level with all of your party members. And when you're walking around town, if you pass a certain store that somebody has a story about, you can hit a button and you'll start getting a little dialogue, walk and talk with them. And it'll raise your bond level and stuff like that. So it really does feel like they are there with you, which is nice, because like it's nice to have Yakuza games do a really good job of riding the line between real emotional storytelling and anime bullshit, like over the top, just straight up anime. And it's nice having, you know, Kiryu. He had a lot of personality, he had a lot of character, and maybe because I didn't play all the games, I think this, but he's kind of very much a stone face, kind of like he is there to have all this stuff happen around him, and he would like say a couple things and you'd move on. But like Ichiban feels like a much more animated. He has a lot of big shonen energy, shonen protagonist energy.
Oh, that is why I'm gonna love this game, huh?
Yeah, that's why I told you I think you'd love this game. He is very emotional and reactive to stuff, and so is the party. And it's fun like putting him against this real world because he is very much like a cartoon character. So this is not a spoiler to say because it happens within the first hour of an 80-hour video game.
God, is it really 80 hours?
They said it's like twice the length of old Yakuza games. I'm like 35 hours in, and I'm on chapter 6 of 15. But I'm doing a lot of side stuff as I go. He goes to prison. Ichiban goes to prison for like 20 years almost. And so they have that story of like somebody kind of from the past reacting to how crazy the present has gotten. And having the party members there is a really nice way to have like that added context of they can kind of fill in the blanks for him and stuff. Like there's a scene where he gets out of prison and he immediately sees a guy vaping and just freaks out. He just has no idea what he's looking at.
Great.
But yeah, like so the JRPG-ness of it. So it has all the Yakuza side stuff that you know and love. It has, batting cages. It has karaoke. It has
Virtua Fighter 5.
Yeah, arcades with Virtua Fighter 2 and 5.
2 and 5, yeah.
Which one you want? Yeah. Super Hang-On 2, which is a fucking hard game.
Yeah.
It's brutal. All that stuff, lots of restaurants to explore, and each restaurant has its own menu, and each of the different menus has different perks and stuff like that. The stuff that's different, the stuff that really separates this as a clean break is the combat. That's the biggest thing. And so it is a weird blend of turn-based combat, but also with that kind of street brawly DNA of the older Yakuza games because so like first of all, your characters are always kind of moving around. Both you and the enemies are kind of like, you'll be in a wherever, like an alley. Let's say you run into some enemies in an alley and you'll be walking around and the enemies will be walking around. And if I want to attack, let's say like I have a character in the back who wants to just do a straight up normal attack on a character in the back line of the enemy's squad. I can't do it because if I start running, so let's say I select attack, I select on the enemy, I hit the button, my guy starts running towards them. If there's guys in between them, they all physically like stop you. It's very positional because like there's also stuff in the environment that you can interact with. Like if somebody's next to a trash can and you attack them, your character has a chance to like grab that trash can and start beating them over the head with it instead of a normal attack. It'll do more damage. You can kick somebody into traffic if you're fighting next to a street. Enemies will often attack whoever is next to them, and whoever's next to them is often the last person that attacked them. So like early on, I was getting punished a lot because I would send in my weaker character to finish off a weak character, but it would make them exposed. Likewise, there are attacks like there are special moves, and the special moves will do sometimes like an AoE effect. Like so, there's a whole job system, and one of the jobs you can have is like a breakdancer. They're all jobs like that, like breakdancer, and
like real jobs, like breakdancer.
Man,
You have a dancer class in JRPGs anyway, so
that's right.
Totally.
And this game sounds really good.
And so it'll do like an AoE attack, or you'll do a charge move where you hit everyone in the way to your target and stuff like that. So it's like, it is turn-based, but it's not, you're never controlling the movement of your characters, but you do have to pay attention to where everyone is positioned in the more difficult fights. I haven't found it to be too challenging. I got knocked out once. I've heard that there are some pretty intense difficulty spikes towards the end. I haven't gotten close to that though.
It does have it's a little active, right? Are you kind of hitting a button to perfect guard and like there's timing involved in some of that combat as well, right?
Yeah. So there's, like you said, there's a perfect guard. If you hit the button, if you hit like circle right when you're about to get hit, you'll do a block that'll, greatly reduce the damage. I found my biggest problem with the combat comes from that. Early on, it's really hard to gauge when the enemy is actually going to hit you. A lot of times they'll like wind way back for something and then like wait a beat longer than you think they're going to and then hit. And then the timing windows seems like not too generous. You can't mash. You absolutely cannot like mash circle. And sometimes the camera, like especially on enemy turns, if you're fighting in a wider area, the camera will be constantly like zooming around to show you what's happening. And sometimes the enemy will start their attack before the camera has reached them. So sometimes you'll just get like sucker punched almost. That's a little bit of a bummer. I think the combat, like overall, I like it more than the older Yakuza games. I like it more than just like the kind of mash a button to beat up a guy and then occasionally do a heat move style of gameplay, but I don't think it's perfect. I think it's like a really interesting experiment in how to kind of blend turn-based combat and action combat into like kind of something I've never seen before.
So hang on, can you manually position your people, or is it just based on like the attack commands you've given them and you just kind of have to live with wherever they end up? Okay.
Yeah, you could, like, if you theoretically wanted to, you could wait out for a while and wait till like a character is lined up with 3 other enemies so you could do a charge attack. But I've never felt the need to do that.
Sounds wild, man. I'm hearing elements of like Final Fantasy and Chrono Trigger and Mario RPG, like all the games of my youth. I'm super interested in.
But we're not a ton of Dragon Quest. We're yeah.
I really am liking. Sorry, I'm pulling my notes up. I'm really liking the story. I think I really like Ichiban as a character. He has got that same kind of fresh, like. Just like he's a pure force of good.
Does he have that like dumb Goku energy?
Yes, he very much has dumb Goku energy, but like just like he wants to help people. He got wrapped, he gets wrapped up in the Yakuza because of honor. Like he's a guy big into honor, and to him the most honorable thing you could do is be in the Yakuza and like sure. Show honor to your family and your boss, and it's very much a game about a relationship between you and your dad, or like there's somebody who takes you in early on in the game.
Okay, this is encouraging. I know I harped on this in some stream or other last week, but like it does have a good amount of that like gangster melodrama in there, because
it's the first like 3 hours of the game are pretty much all that with a little bit of weird stuff sprinkled in, and then you get wrapped up in a kind of side thing, which I still think is interesting, but not as interesting as the main thrust. But probably like the middle, 5 or 6 chapters are kind of their own thing. That's kind of about like a gang war.
Ben, do you think you could just jump into this straight if you haven't played any of the Yakuza games? Like it's removed enough.
Yeah, like they talk about the Tojo clan and the Omni Alliance and stuff like that, which are like from they're like they play a role in those older Yakuza games. But like I said, I'm somebody who doesn't know like a lot of the grander Yakuza story, but I still I'm never like, oh, I don't know who that is or what that is. I need to go look this up. It would probably just add to the experience if you had played those older games and could make those connections.
I did see some screenshots where they expected you to know the spelling of some Yakuza characters in a trivia quiz and some other stuff like that. That seemed pretty good.
Yeah, all the side stuff is really fun. And I'm sorry to the 60 people in chat who just said it's Ami Alliance. Excuse me. I'm sorry. I'm going to go burn my copy of the game. I obviously
please do. Put an N in that word.
You're playing it on PS4, right?
I am, and it's running really well. Like occasionally a load time from like a cutscene to the open world will be a little bit longer than I want, but like honestly, I've not experienced much slowdown or crazy long load times or anything.
That's cool. That's a old model PS4, right? Not a Pro.
Yeah, it's a basic. The fan isn't even like blowing over time.
Man.
I played probably about 45 minutes of it on an Xbox Series X, and thought it looked really nice. Like it also didn't seem like it was particularly taxing the hardware or anything like that. But things loaded quickly and all that stuff. But I kind of got through like the first fight and then ran to an arcade to play a bunch of Virtua Fighter, and then after that I was like, all right, cool, done playing Virtua Fighter, let's turn this off, and I just haven't turned it back on since. But yeah, I do want to check out more of that when I have 80 to 100 hours to kill.
Yeah,
someday.
Yeah, when you said you were 30 hours in, I was curious to how like chapter wise you are, but you said you are doing like a bunch of open world stuff.
Yeah, the way I kind of approach these games is like I'll try to try every minigame once, and if I like it, I want to like beat it because there's often multiple levels to it. There's a whole subsystem where you sign up for this. You start working for a guy who runs a hero service. And that kind of folds into like the quest stuff where it'll be like you'll have a bunch of hero quests and it'll be like get a gold medal in batting cages or get to the last level of Virtua Fighter and stuff like that. So I've been doing a lot of those, and often you can do those things with your party members, and that'll increase your bond with them. And sometimes you'll get unique dialogue when you do that stuff with them. The game also has like a little bit of weirdness around it. It's stuff that like a lot of people could brush off as like cultural difference stuff, but it's still kind of jarring for me where like early on you have to lay low for a while. Ichiban has to lay low, and so he's hanging out at a homeless encampment and he meets some homeless characters, and there's actually a really touching scene where he's like, we just have to get out there and raise ourselves up by our bootstraps. And they're like, no, you don't understand. It's not that simple. Like, we're all here because of like the limits of society and blah, blah, blah. And like, we would love to do it. And it's like actually a really nuanced take on it. And then like you get out of there and you start fighting characters named Hungry, Hungry, Homeless. And you're just like, man, this is a big swing.
Could have just named him Steve.
And then like there's a job system, and then there's like which job you can take is based on whether you're male and female, and the male jobs are like enforcer, foreman, chef, and the female jobs are hostess, like mistress of the night, which is basically a dominatrix, idol. It's not all one or the other. There's some that work in both, but like that stuck out as a very distinct like, okay. All right, I'm just gonna. There's a lot in this game. I'm gonna turn my head to this stuff here and just kind of shake my.
Kamurocho is a land of contrast, is what you're saying.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, cool. Yeah, but overall, that sounds like a very good game, though.
It's a lot of fun.
I want to see that.
Oh yeah, someone in chat. This game has a piss wizard in it.
Yeah. Oh, so there's a whole. Can
I be a piss wizard?
You find the guy.
Is that a job? Can I do that?
Is that a job? Can I get paid to be a piss wizard?
I have not unlocked the piss wizard. There's a whole guy. There's a whole sub quest where you meet the Yakuza version of Professor Oak. It's a guy named Sujimon, and he gives you the Sujadex, and it's basically a Pokedex for scumbags. And it just like
I think that's you can pull up a map of like here are the sex offenders in your area, and it's just like Route 4.
Oh man,
it's and yeah, one of the early side quests you fight is one of the early side quests you take on is like somebody is pissing in the river and you have to go find them and stop them. And the way you find them is you see 4 dudes next to each other, all with their backs turned, and you're like, okay, which one of these guys looks like there's pissing? And there's one guy who's like this, and there's one guy with his hands on his hips like this, and there's another guy who's just like shaking around a little bit. It's
game of the year.
It's a
So are all of them pissing? Because those all sound like acceptable pissing positions. Like especially if you're a hero, if you're a wizard and you're trying to do a heroic wizard piss, you're gonna be like, power.
I managed to guess it first time. I really wish I had gotten it wrong just to see what the other people were doing.
Yeah.
Do they show it?
No, they imply it. You hear like a.
Sometimes it's about the piss you don't show.